Hey YouTube, what's up? It's CS back here with another installment, and here are my predictions for UFC on FX Johnson versus McCall. Here we go, folks, with another solid free card on FX from the UFC. I'm liking what I see out of this main card, especially that main event rematch between Demetrious Johnson and Ian McCall. Yeah, you got Erick Silva on there, and Charlie Brenneman, Mike Pyle versus Josh Neer, Eddie Wineland versus Scott Jorgenson. Yeah, I very much like that 4-fight main card. I'm really looking forward to that. The preliminary card itself, not looking too good. You know, I think a lot of guys are getting cut after this night. Yeah, not a lot of, UFC caliber guys on that preliminary card. However, it does have Mike Pierce, Seth Baczynski. I think Justin Salas is all right. Carlos Eduardo Rocha. Yeah, I don't know. It has some names. You know, we'll see. Hopefully it is entertaining at least. Who knows? But yeah, let's start things off at the top. Of course, Demetrious Johnson, Ian McCall in the main event. Of course, if you want to check out my preliminary card picks, they're in the description below. But yeah, guys, here we go with this main event. Do you have Uncle Creepy this time or Mighty Mouse? I gotta go with Uncle Creepy this time. You know, Ian McCall, I think, can best Demetrious Johnson everywhere. You know, I picked Demetrious Johnson the first fight due to the fact that I thought his speed would be too troublesome for Ian McCall on the feet. I thought he'd be able to beat up McCall with combinations. I thought that McCall would have a hard time counterpunching. I thought McCall was going to try to sprawl and brawl only, and I thought that if you're not willing to fight a wrestling match with Demetrious Johnson, then you're probably going to lose. You know, Demetrious Johnson, if he gets out wrestled, that's how you beat him. Real talk. You know, Dominic Cruz did it. Brad Pickett did it. You know, I think Ian McCall can do it as well. I think he already has. You know, I thought he 10-8'd the third round. I thought, wow, body bag, Ian McCall has this fight. And, when I heard majority decision, I'm like, okay, this is interesting. You know, I know it was a close fight, but, I thought McCall was really going to get that, and he didn't. It should have gone to at least a draw, which it was, of course, reversed to eventually. And that's why we have this rematch. But it should have been done right then and there. Of course, Demetrious got that majority decision, so we didn't even see a fourth round. And if we did, oh my God, McCall probably would have finished Johnson. I think Ian McCall is going to best Johnson everywhere again. I think that he's going to want to fight a wrestling match against Demetrious Johnson. I remember when I made my pick for Demetrious, I remember watching an interview 10 hours before the event where Ian McCall was like, if you're not willing to fight a wrestling match with Demetrious Johnson, then you're not going to win. You're wrestling with Demetrious Johnson no matter what. The guy has takedowns on his mind. First things first, as soon as the bell rings. Sure, he might be punching your face, looking lightning quick with his, solid boxing combinations. However, he's doing that, and he's gonna, his intent is to use one of those lightning quick takedowns, put you on your back or your ass or something. So, yeah, look for Demetrious to try to do that again. However, I think Ian McCall is going to be quick to stuff those takedowns because I think he's going to be working for his own as well. I think that he's going to try to be, the grimier fighter in this bout. I think he's going to use some cage work here. I think he's going to put Demetrious Johnson on his back or on his ass, from the clinch using takedowns there, and maybe out wrestling him in the center of the octagon too. It's just Demetrious Johnson's takedown defense is not good. We saw it in the Brad Pickett bout. We saw it against Dominic Cruz, and Ian McCall certainly exploited that, especially late in that fight. So in their first fight. So. I think Ian McCall can definitely out-wrestle Demetrious Johnson. I think that's what he has on his mind. And, of course, on the feet, I underestimated Ian McCall's ability to, adjust to Demetrious Johnson's speed. He was able to hang with Johnson on the feet, even when Johnson had, more in the tank. I understand it was Johnson's first time cutting back to 125 in a while. So, I know that Ian McCall was more used to that weight cut. So look for Johnson to look, better in this fight. However, I think McCall is going to be looking better as well because he knows what to expect from Demetrious Johnson. In my opinion, Demetrious Johnson really has plateaued as a fighter. He still has takedowns on his mind no matter what. And as long as you're willing to wrestle with him, meaning offensively wrestle against him, then I think that will set the pace for you for the rest of the bout. Look for Ian McCall to, try to stuff takedowns and, try to sweep if, he does get taken down. If not, get takedowns off first. Use some solid ground and pound. Maybe get Demetrious Johnson's back or something like that. And on the feet, look for him to counterpunch Johnson and land his own combinations. I think he dictates the pace of the fight for the most part for at least 2 rounds here. I got, Ian McCall getting at least 29-28 across the board. Alright folks, next up we have that bout between Erick Silva and Charlie Brenneman in what weight? Yes, this is the co-main event. I have Erick Silva all day, every day in this one. I do like Charlie Brenneman. I think he's a good guy. I think he's a solid wrestler, but he's not explosive enough to take down someone like Erick Silva. Erick Silva, athletic dude. We haven't really seen him exploited by wrestlers or anything, but, he does have a solid camp. And I believe those guys will know who to align him with in training in order to, to ready him for someone like Charlie Brenneman. Charlie Brenneman always looking for a takedown. And I think Erick Silva's, athletic ability with his hips, and I think his know-how will be ready to stuff those takedowns from Charlie Brenneman. And maybe he doesn't have to stuff any. Maybe he puts his fists on Charlie Brenneman's face, very soon. I think Charlie Brenneman's chin was a little exposed in the Anthony Johnson fight. I think he's really easy to hit on the feet. His stand-up is improving, but Erick Silva's boxing is pretty solid. And look for him to use that against Charlie Brenneman and then finish him off with more strikes or maybe get his back for a rear naked choke. I just don't think Erick Silva gets out-wrestled for at least a round. I don't think this goes to the judges' scorecards or anything. I think Erick Silva finishes this fight. I think he's one of the best prospects in welterweight, and I want to see him, up against some of these, borderline top 15 people, some top 10 guys. Charlie Brenneman, of course, kind of got there with that Rick Story win, and he's hovering around somewhere in the top 10, top 15. So I look for Erick Silva to beat Charlie Brenneman definitively and get some of those other guys like a Mike Pierce or someone like that. And I really think he's that good. I think he out-jiu-jitsus Charlie Brenneman if, it goes to the ground. If Charlie Brenneman gets on top of him, I think he gets swept. I think if, I think Erick Silva can maybe take down Charlie Brenneman, but for the most part, I think he's going to knock Charlie Brenneman out. Look for him to do it in the first round. Alright folks, now let's move on to that other welterweight bout between Mike Pyle and Josh Neer. How does Josh Neer win this bout? Keep it standing against Mike Pyle. Josh Neer might hit a little bit harder. Mike Pyle's technique has been getting better on the feet, and his stand-up is definitely feasible. It's all right. Against Josh Neer, I think he's going to want to out-wrestle Josh Neer, though. Mike Pyle's a better submission grappler. Even in guard, he might be able to catch Josh Neer in one of those triangles that he likes to use, of course. I just think as long as it's a grappling match, I think Mike Pyle will win this fight. I think that if it is standing, I think he can hold his own against Josh Neer. Josh Neer, he's going to want to use his power, which is still decent, and just be able to keep Mike Pyle at bay and not, get out-wrestled for the most part. But I think Mike Pyle is more prone to out-wrestling him, especially over the course of 3. I think Mike Pyle is probably going to get like a guillotine or a rear naked choke or something sometime in round 2. So that's my pick, Mike Pyle via submission. Alright folks, now let's move on to the last bout I'm going to break down, the one that's kicking us off on the main card, between Eddie Wineland and Scott Jorgenson in bantamweight. Eddie Wineland, he's a former champion himself, pretty solid hands, pretty good kicks, his jiu-jitsu is alright as well. However, him versus a wrestler is not a good look. Scott Jorgenson's a very good one. Eddie Wineland's, sprawls have improved. His, wrestling defense is getting there. However, Scott Jorgenson's a very high-level wrestler, and he's one of the better ones in that fucking division. So, if Eddie Wineland's getting out-wrestled by, some cats like Uriah Faber, I think Scott Jorgenson can definitely exploit him here. I think Jorgenson is going to be throwing bombs on the feet, not, minding to trade with Wineland and using those to set up his takedowns. I think that Wineland is not going to move laterally to avoid those bombs. I think he's just going to try to counter them and then end up getting taken down. So, Wineland, of course, needs to win this bout on the feet. I don't think he out-grapples Jorgenson whatsoever. Jorgenson might even catch him in one of those guillotines. So, I don't know. I think Jorgenson out-wrestles him no matter what. Pretty confident in his pick. Maybe a TKO finish. However, Wineland is a tough guy. I think Jorgenson is more inclined to get a guillotine if he's going to get a finish. But I'm going to say unanimous decision. I think Wineland has improved. He wasn't finished by Benavidez or Faber via guillotine. So maybe Jorgenson doesn't get one. He probably doesn't get one. So I'm just going to say Jorgenson via D1 wrestling. And there it is, folks. I think that about does it for my thoughts on UFC on FX, Johnson versus McCall. I hope you all enjoyed the event. And I am sorry if you did notice I don't have a contest for this card. At least I haven't introduced one yet. And I'm telling you now that I actually don't have one. I decided I am only going to have the contests for pay-per-views, the numbered UFC events. I believe the next one is 147. I think that is Vanderlei Silva versus Rich Franklin in a rematch. So yeah, stay tuned for that. Most definitely, I will get a contest out there for y'all. The reason I am changing it to just pay-per-views, I don't know, they got too many cards. So yeah, I can only give away so much stuff, so that's why I'm sticking to just pay-per-views. So sorry for the inconvenience there if y'all were expecting a contest for this card. But yeah, again, I am sorry about that, but stay tuned for that card for sure. It should be fun. And stay tuned for my review for this card. I am, really looking forward to that main event again. So yeah, hopefully you guys want to hear what I have to say about it when all is said and done. So yeah, there it is, guys. Thank you for all the support once again. Deuces for all my supporters, bruises for all my haters, and take care.